Sweat Equity Podcast and streaming show for that ass. What? Yeah.
Which ass?
That ass. Tap that ass. I'm so white. That other voice you're hearing is
other
Eric,
ass.
That other ass voice you're hearing is Eric Redinger on the ones and twos, hitting that soundboard.
I know you wanted me to do it.
On that other ass cheek, Law Smith, we're bringing Sweat Equity to you. We're 2020's Lux Global Excellence Awards for Best Comedy Business Podcast in the World. I don't have the
Best
rundown.
Something or other.
I don't have it in front
We're
of me.
just the best.
Sweat Equity Podcast, the #1 comedy business podcast in the world.
That's the one.
Listen to us on iTunes, Apple Podcast app, Spotify. Subscribe, rate, review. That hooks us up more than anything other than our sponsors, like trygrasshopper.com/sweat. What's Grasshopper? It's a business phone line. Don't have the Google Voice business line. Don't have your phone number as your side hustle, your business phone line when people try to follow you and order something or complain, and then they get your personal phone number. F that F and F. Trygrasshopper.com/sweat. Like Montez Sweat.
Yeah.
Gets you $75 off an annual plan. That's trygrasshopper.com/sweat. Like Keith Sweat or Montez Sweat. Gets you 75 bones off an annual plan. It's a scalable business phone line. You get a desktop app. You get a mobile app. You can forward it to from your phone number to port it over to the app. Compartmentalize your life. That's why you should try grasshopper.com/sweat. Like Sweat Equity. Try grasshopper.com/sweat. $75 off an annual plan. I don't want to delay this any longer. Let's get this party started. Howdy toddy!
What about my Sweat Equity?
Dynamite!
Sweat Equity. Sweat Equity. My Sweat Equity. My Sweat Equity.
Sweat Equity.
What about my Sweat Equity?
All right, I have to ask, and I'm excited to ask this question, is what happened on August 17th, 1952? And I'll tell the listeners after why I asked this, but I've been holding this in my pocket for about 3 months.
I didn't think you'd remember.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
but
I actually remember I came out of the birth canal and I went waving and stuff. That was when I was born.
But you have your podcast where you had a CEO podcast that you would ask everybody their birthday, what happened on this date, and can you tell us some of those stories of why that was a great kind of icebreaker for a podcast for a lot of people that are very doing interviews a lot of the time they're just running through them, and I think you caught them, you got them, gotcha, as you would say.
Well, the reason I did that, Law, was and Eric, was what I found out is the true value in meeting somebody is their journey. And most people always tell about where their destination they arrived at. So when you have traditional business interviews and stuff, you go, how'd you get? Oh yeah, I started the company, blah, 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 blah. Well, what we all know, and I'm sure you two can relate to this, it all starts with things that happen in our life. And I was on a call right before this podcast with one of my guys that I tried to buy his company back 8-9 years ago out of Detroit. And he was all angst up, and we were talking about the journey in your life. So the reason I always ask, I find out their birthday, and I go, what happened on your birthday? So picture I'm doing every week a radio show with a CEO. And the CEOs I'm doing interviews with are some pretty real CEOs. They're not mom and poppers, I had, the Outback founders, Chris Sullivan. I've had a 3-star General Bidler. I had all kinds of different people that have been on journey. What's crazy is when you ask them their birthday and they go, it startles them, and they start their journey there. And what you find, for me in particular, is most people never recognize, even themselves, how their journey formed to where they are today. And they never recognize the ups and downs in their journey when they're experiencing ups and downs today. The guy I was just on the phone with, he was bitching and moaning, about politics, all the crap. And I'm going, why would you bitch and moan? He goes, well, look, what do you think's going to happen? I said, the same thing that happened yesterday. I mean, there might be some nuances, but you're too small. And I don't mean small in stature. And so we went through all that exercise. And so my interviews with these individuals were epic law. They would share their journeys, and I'm not going to share her name, but one. Do you want to hear an epic journey?
Yeah. This is why we have you on. You're Ron Contour, my friend.
Well, I had this one woman who is, if she walked in right now on this podcast, she'd go, wow. And she's CEO of a large national company. She just, got her act together. You'd just be like, man, that woman's just had nothing but a silver spoon, blessed life. There's nothing ever bumping her road. You would say that. Now, what I did was I started with a birthday. As we started going through that, she shared with me, and she goes, as she went through her journey, it turns out her father and her sister both committed suicide within a 12-month window when she was a teenager.
Whoa.
I mean,
that'll do some damage.
Yeah. So she was all screwed up, and she's 50 something now, but she was doing, like a lot of people in high school. Everybody always swears they never drank and smoked pot or anything in high school, and all they are is liars.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, she started telling this stuff, and then she really got transparent. She goes, to get myself together. Now she's 51 years, and this is 2 years ago, so she's 53 now. She goes, at 19, I joined the United States Marines. So picture this woman joining the Marines literally 30 years ago, almost 20 something years ago. Do you want to know what a woman joining the Marines was like 25, 30 years ago?
Yeah, I'm sure it was easy.
They made a movie of it because G.I. Jane was such a atypical kind of story, right?
She was just like that. She told the story. They would march her into the swamp when she was transferred to Guadalcanal. Her sergeant would march her into the swamp and at night and tell her that she needed to empty the swamp. She was on swamp empty in detail, and they sat on the bank harassing her while she sat waist deep in a swamp with a shovel for 8 hours digging a swamp out, obviously to no avail. Now, this woman, when you take the rest of her journey and stuff, she's been through stuff. She, long story short, today, she's a highly successful CEO, drop dead gorgeous as far as physical. If you met her, you would go, that's the most positive woman. I mean, holy smoke, she just had nothing but a silver spoon in her life. And the reality is, it's all part of the journey. That's why I do it. I mean, Chris Sullivan, when I interviewed him, how he ended up, his dad wouldn't pay for his school, so he had to take a job as a busboy at Steak and Ale while he was trying to get in the University of Kentucky. Because his dad, he had a full ride at the Naval Academy because his dad was an FBI agent. Guess how many people I've met that know that? Friends of his don't even know his dad was an FBI agent.
Dozens now.
Yeah.
Well, after my show, but the reality was, he took that bus boy at Steak and Ales and subsequently became a vice president of Steak and Ale, went on with the founder and did Chili's, went on and founded Outback. But it all started because he needed a part-time job to put himself through college at the University of Kentucky. Who'd have thought?
I think it must be the most efficient psychotherapy question to ask within that few words, to have people run through that in their mind that quick, because you immediately have to start answering your own questions and answering yourself that quickly.
It's a very smart
question. As I think about it,
because it shows a couple of things. A, it shows that you gave a shit to take 5 minutes and look it up, right? So there's a little bit of that subconsciously there. So it imbues a little bit of trust, I guess. And then I'd say the other part is you're having these people on that are always talking. The easiest thing to ask in an interview is about the person, right? Typically. But they're not ever answering those personal questions a lot of the time. They're never doing that. And so, but they do want to talk about it because every entrepreneurial story is wildly interesting because there's so many variables. That's why entrepreneurship is such a broad term. You can't really describe it that well other than it's tough. And so before I forget, deanakers.com, if you want to listen to those interviews, the CEO Hour podcast, it's on deanakers.com/podcast. His other podcast, Selling and Leadership Ninja, that's one I've been tuning into a lot lately. The brand of you section from a few weeks back is pretty interesting as well. What can you tell people? They can listen to it. Are there any footnote or any additions to the 3 episodes about branding yourself? And the whole gist, I would say, is brand yourself, dig the well before you're thirsty, right? Work on your own brand. It's not gross. It's not self-promoting. It's setting yourself up to be almost recession-proof, be company-proof or occupation-proof if you're at a full-time job or whatever. It's one of those things where it's like a business self-improvement of sorts to work on. Did I describe it well, or?
You described it, but here's the interesting thing about the brand of you, especially when I do speaking engagements. People don't realize that they have the brand of you every time they meet somebody, whether it's somebody they get in a cab with, whether it's somebody they meet in passing in a hallway. First impressions many times in the brand of you. And so the brand of you starts immediately. How you develop the brand of you is a follow through. So what I've found with most people is they don't understand that first impression is critical. It's critical. Now, you don't have to, do something special like wear a suit all the time and stuff. But what is one of the coolest things that you can do for the brand of you that ingratiates yourself to people?
Oh no, this is one of Dean's quiz questions, and I don't know the answer.
For people listening, you're teaching. You're teaching CEO, but you're teaching in real talk in real time. I was trying to look up something as you're asking that question. Give it to us one more time. Sorry.
Okay, so what is one of the techniques I've found, especially in face-to-face, is one of the most positive things you can do in creating a step up in the brand of you when you first meet somebody?
Ask them about them.
Believe it or not, this will sound old school, but it's so powerful. It's unbelievable. You'll even find today maybe a little bit of awkwardness because of the COVID, but reach out and shake their hand.
Oh,
yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's a female or male. So it's not like if it's a girl, you don't shake their hand. And if they say my name's Fred, while you're shaking their head, you go, Fred, what's your last name? And they go, Fred Smith or whatever. What's the most powerful words in somebody's psyche?
I love you.
Yes, I don't know.
No, it's actually truly the sound of their own name. It's still the most powerful words in somebody's psyche. And so what happens is as you engage them and they feel that engagement, what have you done for the brand of YOU with them?
Promoted it.
Validated them.
Yeah, you've engaged them. And what's crazy is when you engage them, when you walk away, it's almost phenomenal. It's almost should be illegal. In fact, it's like gravity. If you open a hand, it's like gravity. They always go, wow. Because guess how many people today really do an active engagement of the other person, caring about them. And I would say do it with genuine feelings. Don't just do it because you read it in the book. How many people really feel that personal engagement today, even more than ever?
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I remember what I was trying to look up was on my iCal. We met about a year ago, roughly, at a networking event. Probably neither of us would usually go to, but
Yeah.
our mutual friend put it on, and I remember meeting you and and going, "Oh, this guy is very interesting," and immediately told me about his interim guy aspect, but also that getting a vasectomy would be the best $600 I ever spent. And I go, that I would like to work for that guy. So I like people that can not be so formal professional all the time, because you read the room or you read me and you go, this
guy likes dick
this
jokes.
guy looks like Jesus'
sure.
alcoholic brother or Nicolas Cage in Con Air. This guy probably parties. I can tell him all this stuff. I think Justine, our friend, told you I did stand up and had a professional life, but
Actually, she didn't tell me, but when
Oh.
you shared that with me, I think that's still so cool.
well, I think it's interesting that you've watched like every Netflix special, and people should know that are listening. You have the Adjunct CEO as a brand that you go out and you'll go out and do speaking engagements, and I'm sure as soon as those are happening in situations where you can have crowds, you'll be on the road again. If you need punch up, we're here for you anytime. By the way,
I'm waiting to go to one of your stand-ups because that's something I've never done. But I admire stand-up comedians, and literally I love Netflix because I watch all the stand-up comedians on there, and I go literally almost every day to see what new it is on there. But what's even crazier is I go on Netflix and find old ones that I never saw before, and I Googled everything on Netflix. I don't know if they bring up new old ones.
yeah, they'll buy or license older ones for a while, and then depending on if they have a sex scandal or not, they may take them off.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite, Dean? Favorite stand-up?
Oh, my favorite hands down is Ron White. I mean, I've traveled all over the United States to see Ron White. I've seen him so many times live. The worst time though, it actually turned me off, is I watched his Netflix special, and then my son and I flew to see him do his show, and we watched the
Same
special
thing.
Huh?
It was the same thing.
I mean, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's what's tough now. I'm sure that was like before that there was they realized a connection there. Now you can't do that. You have to turn over material.
Yeah. Now they burn it. Once it goes on tape, it's done.
But
Well, so that was a little bit of disappointment, but I still love Ron White. And I love, I like Burr. I like him. He's always, and then I like, what's her name? Oh,
Thank God, a woman.
no, this is I know he's going to say, because when I asked you about 3 months ago, I know who you're going to say. If you need me to help you, remember. But I was like, I'm friends with her, Eliza.
Oh, Eliza, yeah.
And I was like,
Schlesinger.
Yeah, but from
I'm just saying for the audience.
Yeah, she dropped the last name because it's too hard for a lot of people to say. But it's like, for someone of your age and stature to be like, who do you like? And you're like, Eliza. I was like, that's great that you have watched a lot of that. A lot of people, a lot of older white male figures don't. That's not her demo. But you realize I did when I started with her. I was like, she's smart. She's very business savvy too. You can tell in the way she constructs bits. But I just, that and Ron White being her favorite because he's my favorite. And I've gotten to open for him once and kind of lost my shit doing it. But it was one of those things where he's got a scotch in his hand. That's real scotch. And this is like a Tuesday night in Atlanta, like 10 years ago. And there's like, hey, I'm just gonna sit in the car with the scotch. Just give me a knock. Give me a knock when I need to go up, or you're about to go up. I was like, all right. I have to go knock on his car. But
stand-up comedy's got to be one of the toughest form of speaking and stuff because you're vulnerable. I've never done it, but I can't even imagine you've done stand-up comedy. To put your material together, you've got a raw audience.
But it's a lot of what you talked about, because you have to read the room. You have to think of the audience as one person if you can. If it's a good, decent setup, You want that audience to galvanize, like Steve Martin says, and if you can engage with them, like if you're just straight up, I'm going to do my material. I'm not going to I'm going to ignore what just happened over here. That was crazy. You have to really take it all in. You can't just be robotic about it, or else it is the only art where I feel like that fourth wall is broken, whether a lot of people realize it now or not. And it's fun to play with that too, because they think they're watching Netflix if they zone out so much. So you can be like, look, this ain't Shakespeare. Like, I can talk.
I can see you.
Right. I'll put my nuts right on your face. Like, I don't care. Like.
That's why he doesn't do stand up anymore.
That's why I have a year ban. No. But I don't. We can go down that route. You, by the way, I guarantee have done stand up better than most stand ups have done it. I just knowing your personality and being able to work with you, because you're tossing out dimes left and right that are throwaways for you. That's how I know you easily do it in your speaking engagements. With the brand of you stuff, what are you working on for your brand of you?
Well, I do podcasts. And I got to tell you, I'd like to tell you, podcast was a real scientific thought process, but it happened about 3 years ago when I took over a company to run, and we were getting thrown out of offices. We were told to, can I use the F-bomb on a podcast, this one?
Please do.
Oh, this one? Yeah, we encourage it.
Yeah, so I would go see customers, and they'd tell me to get the fuck out of there when I gave my card. And I go, man, this is better fruit. And they hated it. So I had to figure a Trojan horse to have them invite me in. And so I went on the radio, and I started a show called The Condo Coaches. And every week I had a Saturday morning, Sunday morning show. It was recorded, and we recorded it, and it would go out on Saturday and Sunday morning on AM stations across the state of Florida. And I was the head condo coach, and we would quote all volunteers to help condominium associations with problems. And I'd have another guest, which would be a roofing guy, an insurance guy, or something. And I was the head condo coach. And we would talk, and it really was crazy. I mean, it went crazy. And at the same time, podcasts were just starting. So I was recording it anyway. So I put it up on YouTube, and we had video, and I put it up on podcasts. Well, my podcast, still today, I get emails every day from people listening to the podcast, like, can you help me out with this? My condo association, or the board member of this and this. So that's how I got in it. Then I got asked to speak by a guy by the name of Chris Krimitos. Do y'all know Chris?
Yeah. From the Florida Podcasters Association.
Correct. And so
Nice.
he was pioneering podcasts. So I got this. He said, would you come speak at PodFest, which was first started. And now it's a big convention in Orlando. And I went there. We just started talking. Long story short, next thing I know, I've done 160 episodes. I've had hundreds of thousands of downloads. It's people relate to it, and it's just become something like brushing your teeth. So podcasting for me has been one of my brand of you. But my signature brand of you, I would say my signature brand of you, if I had to pick something, this, if you see here, this will be done before I get off the air, after I'm on the air. Right here is probably, 20 notes to write. One of them will be to the CEO of City Furniture down in Fort Lauderdale. And all it says is a home furniture retailer headquartered in Fort Lauderdale purchased land, Highway 19, da-da-da-da. I'll send it to Keith Kamen. I know him, he's the CEO. I write, Keith, congratulations, Dean. Put this in there, put it on. No expectation. I'm not going to go call me and we'll hook up or whatever.
No call to action.
I've had people call me up. I had one guy call me one time after a handwritten note, and he goes, you never forget stuff like that. And he said, what are you doing next week? And I go, I don't know. He goes, you want to go with me for 10 days? I go, I don't know. What are we doing? He goes, we're going to go marlin fishing off Costa Rica, off the Guatemala with fly rods. I go, yeah, that sounds like a hell of a trip. He said, well, just be at Hangar 1. We got on his jet. We flew to freaking Guatemala on his jet. We went fly fishing for marlin, and we picked up 2 other guys. We actually flew to Houston, picked 2 other guys, and went down there. We got in a Bell Jet Ranger, guys. You can't make this up. Flew out to the coast, go marlin fishing, and after 2 days, they go, well, let's go to, one of the guys had a private island in Roatan, which is off of Colombia or somewhere like that, Venezuela, so, or wherever it is. So we took the jet and flew to this private freaking island this guy owns. And now we go scuba diving, all that off of a handwritten note. So you think having a 10-day all paid for, I couldn't pay for anything. I go, well, let me buy this. Nope, you're our guest. Flying on a private jet, marlin fishing. How many people get to go marlin fishing with a fly rod in the Pacific Ocean off Guatemala, getting there by helicopter after you arrived in the jet?
I didn't know you could fish for marlin with a fly rod. How does that work?
Yeah.
How is it not? I don't.
Here's how it works. You tease them up, and they come right up to the back of the boat. These big ass fish. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They come up, and you've got teasers out, and then you throw the ballyhoo and stuff out there, and then the marlin hits it. Well, when the marlin hits it, all you do is follow him around for 2 hours.
Okay. So it's.
I mean, you eventually get him near the boat, and they call it a catch and release. And you'll be fighting him, and he'll just take line, and you'll watch that reel just go. He's doing whatever he wants.
Right.
But the rush is just, I don't know, it's a rush.
Yeah.
But it came off of a note.
And what analytics marketing nerds would call a touch point, but it's not.
Way to ruin it.
No, but
You
it's not.
ruined
It's
it.
not for that though. It's not. It's almost. You're almost granola hippie in that way of. I looked at that as a gratitude thing almost when you send those out. And I saw your iCal at one point, and you got at least the lowest amount of birthdays I saw in your iCal. I think was about 7 on a day.
I do every day. I got one, Ideal Image, which was a company that I was able to grow from 1 to 60 locations. It was a great exit for me. It was the whole transaction was worth millions to me personally. And that all happened strictly out of a handwritten birthday note I wrote somebody. He said, "You never forgot my birthday." And I hadn't seen him in 6 or 7 years. I was semi-retired at the time. I sold my construction company. He goes, "What are you doing for lunch?" I go, "I don't know." He says, "Let me buy you lunch." So we go have lunch. And while we're at lunch, he says, "I got these 2 chiropractors. They have this one med spa. I wonder if you might be able to help them." Went over there, helped them out a little bit. Then they said, "Would you be our CEO and we'll give you ownership," and blah, blah, blah. We blew it out in the next 5 years with 60 locations. They had been in business 7 years and couldn't get it past that next level. We blew it out. It was a great deal for me, but it was all by virtue of one birthday note without agenda. I didn't write a birthday note saying, "Hey, happy birthday. You got any crap I could do?" So building the brand of you between podcasts, I work with the military now. And the military here's another. I got to tell you another thing. If you got a Gmail account, get rid of it.
Ending in @gmail.com account.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go buy a domain. Get your own name in most cases, but get a domain that brands you. If you're doing stuff, stand-up comic, it might be Law the Stand-Up.
Oh, I'd listened and I was like, oh yeah, he's right. So I went and got my old domain, Lawsmith Works, because I wanted something that can go business or comedy.
Yeah. And you put that and you get that as your email. I got deanakers.com. I got agency. My wife actually sat me down the other day and she thought she sat down and she saw my 101 bill and she goes, "Dean, all these damn domain names, what are you doing with them?" I said, "Well, some of them I could get rid of because I got one domain. I was sitting with a kid one day, and it worked out really good for this kid. I was sitting with this kid helping out his family wanted me to sit with because he felt like a loser. He was about 6'7", big old geeky guy, and he had an accounting degree. And I said, "What's your passion?" And he goes, "What do you mean, what's my passion?" And I go, because his dad wanted me to help him find a job. And I go, "Well, what's your passion?" He goes, he stands up and he leans up right in front of me at breakfast and says to me, he goes, "All I am is a big fucking geek." Starts crying. And I got big fucking geek, bigfreakinggeek.com. And what we did is, it turned out he loved movies. He loved movies. He would go to every first run movie, and he loved the movies so much. He would go to the movie, and then he was an artist, and he would put a camera over his art, and he would draw the movie stuff and then color it in, and then he time lapsed it in and did his own review of the movie. And if you were to go to YouTube now, he has a bigfreakinggeek.com site, and he does other stuff, and he does movie reviews. But what it did is it created an identity for him,
Right.
and it created a passion for him, and he feels fulfilled. Before, everybody, he just felt that being a big freaking geek, or as he said, "I'm the way as a big fucking geek." I go, "You think you're in a world by yourself?"
Yeah, there's and we're finding out more and more. There's a lot of that crowd out there that feels the same way.
But be proud of who you are. You know what most people don't realize. The guy was on the phone earlier today. Is I gave him. I told him about my daily prayer. And he goes, "Your daily prayer?" I said, "Yeah, it's not religious. It's not religious." He goes, "What's your daily prayer?" And this guy said, "Here's your problem." And I actually was meeting with the CEO this morning. I did this with. I already said this just stopped me off.
Yep.
But I was meeting with the CEO this morning, and we were talking about stuff and everything, and he was talking about stuff. We're up on this third floor of this building that he owns, and we're sitting there, and there's a chair there. So I handed him the chair, and I said, "Let's drag this around for the next hour." So he starts dragging the chair around, and he said, "I don't want to drag the chair." I said, "Keep dragging." He goes, "You're such an asshole. Why?" Okay. He keeps dragging the chair. And we didn't make the full hour. He goes, "What are you being such a jerk about me drag a chair?" I said, "Guess what that chair is? Guess what it is?"
His old life.
Well, his past.
I was gonna say ball.
Okay, yeah, I
I was
got
gonna
it.
go ball and chain metaphorically, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, how many people do we meet that are dragging the chair?
Oh yeah.
Most
And
everybody.
can you change anything at all that happened yesterday?
No.
No. So is there any point in taking it and not angst about it?
Yeah. I mean, all you can do is learn from it, right?
Right, yeah, but if you sit there and go, blah, 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 my life's bad, blah, blah, blah. So here's my daily prayer. I wrote it 22 years ago after I was all planned out with my career, my marriage, and we went through a divorce. And I decided, I'm just going to focus on two things. One is making today awesome. If somebody pulls out in traffic, I just slow down and go, whatever. I'm not mad at them. I make today awesome. And I always let people go in front of me at the grocery store, and it freaks them out. I go, or if I'm in line at a fast food and there's some lady behind me, I go, "Man, why don't you go first?" And then the other thing is help somebody every day for no pay. I've been doing it with the military, with young people and stuff. And what I do is I do something every day, and I'm not talking about give somebody on the street a quarter and say, "Oh, I did that." Meaningful. And here's the mathematics behind it. It's kind of a selfish mathematics, you could say. If I make today awesome with those two parameters, and I fall asleep tonight, tomorrow when I wake up, God willing that I didn't die in my sleep, what was yesterday?
Awesome day. Best day of your
Correct.
life.
And the last week, awesome, and on and on and on. One day at a time with my daily prayer. And now I can safely look at people and say, I'll be 69 this year, and I've had an awesome life. And people talk about stuff. They go, "Well, have you done much?" I said, "I've probably done more than 99.999% of people. I fly fish for marlin, obviously. I went to the New York Jets, Baltimore Colts Super Bowl 3. How many people say they went to that?
Yeah.
That are alive?
Huh?
Not many that are alive.
Yeah. I've been to the Playboy Mansion for the Halloween party.
Yeah.
Spooky.
I've traveled all over the world. I've done a circumnavigation, which means you start in Tampa and go around the world without coming back, and you make it all the way around. I've done crazy cool stuff. I've skydived a number of times. I've free-dived myself, I've dove with whale sharks. I've dove without a cage with real sharks in Costa Rica, where you couldn't even count them on 5-10 hands. I've just done cool stuff. So at the end of the day, you think Mr. Dean's had an awesome day every day and has had an awesome life? Yeah.
You keep it simplistic like that, though. That helps,
But we all have challenges. My dad committed suicide. 2 of my brothers died early. We all have a journey, right?
Right.
But if we just focus on making our day awesome and helping somebody else, the outcome when you lay down at night and go, pretty awesome day.
Yeah, I mean, that is the pragmatic kind of stuff this show is really about. Because, we don't like motivational stuff. It's fine, but that kind of stuff is the real motivation by doing the exercise every day like that. We want to have you back on as much as there's not enough time in the podcast recording world to get every story you've already told us off air. So can we ask you to come on a month from now or so? And I got a lot of other questions like the open rate story and stuff like that. We'll tease that out a bit, but we always ask, and I'll show you because I've made thank you cards for people that come on our show. You'll get one of those if you can see that.
Yeah,
in our 80s kind of branding style. I've already ordered them. You should have gotten a thank you card already from me. Hopefully it got to your office.
I did. Thank you.
With it getting sent back because I had the wrong address for your house. But
it doesn't give out his real address, dude.
I stalked it down. I got it. But what's it called? The thing we have to ask everybody that comes on for the first time on the Sweat Equity is what advice would you give your 13-year-old self? And then we'll close out the episode.
My 13-year-old self would be don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
So you go back in time, you can go grab yourself by the collar, and you tell yourself, 13-year-old Dean Akers, don't sweat the small stuff.
And you know who told me that actually, and it worked for me, was my dad.
Okay.
And so it's been a mantra that all through my career, my life and college and everything, I never sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. So I'm sort of telling what I would tell my 13-year-old son, but it hasn't changed. And I have told that to all 5 of my sons.
That's good advice. You're a macro guy too. You like to take that macro view and look at stuff. And I think
I love both you guys. Obviously, we got to work together a little bit.
Yeah.
We love you too, Dean. Miss you.
Yeah. And if there's anything, if I can ever help you or your listeners, I'm always here. And again, I look back and I go, I'm going to be 69 this year, and it's just like it's been a blow by. And I was talking to one of my sons yesterday, and he goes, "Hey, so and so just had another baby," and I'm going, "Oh my God!" I remember when he was coming over to our house, and I was having to whip his ass because he was like a smart ass little 8-year-old kid.
That little shit.
Yeah. So life is good, one day at a time. Help somebody every day, and you'll have an awesome life.
Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on. We'll have you back on in a month if that's cool with you. If we can steal 35 minutes from you.
Thanks for letting me join you guys. I really appreciate it. And I hope all your viewers enjoy. I'm sure they enjoy the show, and happy day with you guys.
All right, go Bucks.
Yeah, thanks, Dean.
Go Bucks. Yeah.
See ya.